Hello, and welcome to a very special edition of Legends Only. I'm Brad, and usually I'm here with my co-host T. Kyle, where we give you a weekly pop culture podcast where we talk about legends only, except I'm in England right now. As you might know, I'm currently off in swinging London town seeing Girls Aloud, hopefully, assuming all goes according to plan. Of course, we didn't want to leave our Legends Only fans hanging in my absence, and as you might be able to tell from the title of this episode, we have something really special for you. This week, I hopped on a call, well, it was a Zoom actually, with one of Australia's finest exports, the Queen of Clubs herself, the one and only Dannii Minogue. Dannii currently hosting a new TV series called I Kissed a Boy. It's the first ever gay dating show in the UK. It was a big hit last year. It led to a sequel series that's airing now called I Kissed a Girl. There's a season 2 coming of I Kissed a Boy that's just casting now. And the first season has just arrived on Hulu, right in time for Pride. You know, I have to say I was really nervous going into the show as a gay guy because I love Dannii so much, but I was worried I wouldn't like it or was concerned about how it would represent gay culture. But I binged it. I loved it. It's sweet. It's campy. It's horny. Watch out for the shower scene. Dramatic. It's relatable. And I actually really do think it's a good glimpse into the gay dating trials and tribulations while still bringing the reality TV drama. Plus, Dannii is an absolute goddess throughout, as she's the Cupid of the series. In any case, to celebrate the show coming stateside on Hulu, I had a chance to speak with Dannii. And of course, you know, I took that opportunity to run wild with questions about her music, Neon Nights, All I Wanna Do, Girl, Madonna, Cher, catfights with her sister Kylie, who I actually suggest getting into. She does have some good stuff of her own, new recording sessions, and of course the new show. On a something more personal note, I think if you've been following me, my website, Mew Muse, the podcast for any amount of time, if you know me in person, you already know how much this opportunity genuinely means to me and how much Dannii means to me, which is also why I sound so incredibly giddy and gay and embarrassing in this. So I tried squeezing in a lot at once. I wanted to say everything, didn't get to everything. It's okay. If you'd like to check it out, also in written form, it is on mewmuse.com as well. So without further ado, go ahead and press play with your dirty hands, I demand. Put the needle on it because this is it, the Dannii Minogue interview, and hopefully just the first of many to come. Hi, Dannii.
Hi, finally.
Finally. How are
Yeah,
you?
oh,
Uh,
good. It's kind of face to face, and I'm sure one day I will really be somewhere with you dancing.
in
You know,
person, I know, at long
yes.
last. I'm overjoyed to finally be speaking with you. I've been a card-carrying Dannii Stanny for years now. To say the absolute least, I had the framed perfection signed postcard above my bed that said, Yo, Brad, the whole nine
Oh,
yards.
oh my goodness. That's
We
good.
go
And
deep.
happy Pride, a lot of celebration. I've now found your podcast, which I'm loving.
Oh my God, you have?
Yes.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love that. Yes, I've been telling the gospel of Neon Nights and everything else for years on the podcast now. So
thank you.
I'm excited to talk to you about music, past and present, Pride, and of course, I Kissed a Boy, which, spoiler alert, I plowed through the entire series this weekend. I
Good.
Yes, many thoughts. I love it. I love it. But before that, I'd love to dive in with something a little silly yet extremely important to me. A few months ago, I was in Miami and I posted a shirt I had made of you and your sister in a cat fight from a 2007 variety show.
Yes. Yeah.
I watch the clip constantly still. It's never fails to delight me. Do you have any memories from that experience that you could talk about?
Yeah. I mean, for me, my relationship with Kylie is mostly in private. There are very few moments where we're doing something on TV or stage together. All of them are so cherished and they're kind of come up as the last minute, like, hey, why don't we do this? Um, but also a lot of thought goes into it. And at that stage, she said, do you want to do this comedy sketch? I've got this team of writers. They're really amazing. And I was like, yes. And then the panic of, oh my God, what are we going to do? And I think I got the script like the day before or something. So my most cherished moments about that, Kylie and I going into a room and just saying, let's just run it, let's workshop it. And we'd done that. And then she said, oh, they've already filmed the stunt women doing the stunts. So leading in and out of those, we cannot change. Like we have to be in this position so that then it matches with the stunt woman. I was like, oh, okay. So it was just the bits in between we could really riff and flow and do our thing. And oh my God, there are looks that we do at each other where it's like, oh, that's our mum. That's the look that she gives us. And it will always make me laugh. And my friends still do it with me. Like if I grab a glass of champagne, they're like, that's the move you do in the comedy thing. So it's a lot of fun. I'm glad that you like it. I love the t-shirt.
Thank you. I genuinely love it. So I imagine you two have patched things up since then, or are you still tussling backstage?
Oh, yes, it's still like, it's my hairbrush. Actually, there was a lot of that when we were little. We shared a bedroom, and at one point, she got some tape and she drew a line down the middle of the bedroom, and she's like, "Do not come over my side of the bedroom." I'm 3 years younger, and that was a big age gap at that point when we were sharing a bedroom, and so there were lots of like sisterly fights, and there's a brother who's in between our age group. We were always, being told, stop it, stop fighting with your brother or sister. So there's all those great, great memories growing up. So we definitely threw that into the scene.
It worked out. It was incredible. So speaking of special memories to me, Neon Nights recently had its 20th anniversary. Extremely important album to me, top 5 of all time. Discovered it at a record shop in a casino in Connecticut in 2004. I think I was 15 or 16 at the time. And don't tell your sister, but I actually got into you first. So let the record show. Um,
Yeah.
I was it was so impactful to me, and it was actually the album cover that stuck out to me first. I saw it and I just thought you looked so glamorous and fierce, and I was wondering if you have any memories of the shoot for that album cover, and also why the G is tilted on in Neon Nights.
Yeah, the tilted G was big for me because I wanted everything to be a little bit off. So in the photo shoot, yes, I'm ready to party. I got sparkly shoes on, but I've fallen over. My name is up there, but the letter's tilted. There's always something a little bit off, a little bit something that wasn't meant to happen. And I feel like the album was really such a breakthrough for me personally. It felt like I've arrived at myself and I'm putting that into the songs in the album, in crafting it in a way. Every day when we went in the studio, I'm like, I don't want this to sound like anyone else. I don't want to, and it happens so much in the music industry, especially back then. It's like record companies saying, well, we want it to be like, and they name something that's in the charts right then and there. And it's like, by the time this comes out, that is going to be the most stupid idea ever. So it was about trying to just be really creative. And I was just lucky, had an incredible A&R and incredible writers and producers that were pumped to do that. And yeah, everything's just a little bit me. It's like, I think that's the best way to arrive. Just come as you are. We're all flawed. We've all got, scars and war wounds and all of that, but we are dressed up, we've got heels on, and we are ready to party. So that's kind of my Neon Nights album.
Love that. It is so influential to me. And fans like to debate single selections and things like that. I think you got it spot on personally, but do you feel like there was a single there that should have been, or a different order, anything like that during that time?
It's definitely an album where I can listen to it back and I feel like everything's there. There's nothing I want to take away or add. There were other albums where I had to fight for stuff to go on, or the only way I could get it was to be a B-side. It's been all of all of that back and forth. But I did really have such a great rapport with Phil Faversham, who was A&R, and we just had such a good relationship to be able to speak openly and honestly and push each other to get to where it is. I think sonically it's a great album. And so yeah, something really nice to be proud of. And it was fantastic to celebrate it so many years later when you actually have the time to connect. London Records, who did it, were just insane. You would love meeting those guys there. If you ever get to London, you have to go into London Records and see like
I know
what
one
they
of
things.
Seb, do we?
Sebastian. Sebastian is incredible. So yeah, there was a lot of love poured into that. So much work back and forth. My manager who's online, Melissa, just the amount of hours that we poured into it, but with so much joy and just like, oh, it's gonna have its moment again. And this time I get to, I'm not out on that crazy promo that I was back in the day. It was, so many top of the pops traveling, lots all around Europe. And yeah, it was great to just relive it.
One of my bragging points about you to the uninitiated is Don't Want to Lose This Groove, which of course was the mashup with Madonna's Into the Groove and her first ever seal of approval. And I think only, or it was just the most incredible mashup that became official and endorsed by her. And I believe there is an interview of her on the radio even saying that she loved it at the time that she had heard it. I would love to hear in your words how that came to be.
Yeah, I haven't seen that interview. I would love to get a hold of that.
There's like a scrubbed interview that apparently during American Life they play it to her and she's like, yeah, of course I've heard it. I love it.
Yeah, well, it would surprise me if the first time any of her music went out, she hadn't heard it,
Right.
loved it, and approved it, right? I cannot imagine that happening. So we were both under the umbrella of Warner, and the guys that I was working with in Paris, they just did this mashup for fun and sent it to me, and I was like, oh my God, this is heaven! Like Into the Groove, one of my. Are you kidding me? How does this just work straight on the top of this record? There was no tweaking it about, and we're like, this would be great to release. I mean, jokingly, like nobody's ever got a release with Madonna. So we're like, well, I'm with Warner. Now's the time. Let's ask. We sent it not thinking we'd ever hear back. And we wouldn't have pushed it or anything. We heard back so quickly. Like I'm working on stuff now where we're trying to, approve samples. Snooze fest. It takes so long. The two quickest ones was Madonna and Dead or Alive. It was like, bam, yes, you got it. And it still blows my mind. So when Ariana released her song and everyone's like, she's got this Madonna track, I was like, yup. The second time, which I loved. I love that song. But yeah, it's amazing. I still have never met Madonna. But yeah, there's no way that she wouldn't have heard it, loved it before approving it.
No, it's the ultimate claim to fame. It's brilliant. You're the first ever official endorsement.
Well, it's kind of like the Minogue thing. She went on stage wearing the Kylie t-shirt, and there was all of that from back in the day. I remember sitting at Kylie's show when Madonna was a few rows in front of me in the audience, and so many magical moments. But we idolized her, and from her first releases, and I just love it.
No, the mutual Minogue Madonna love is just wonderful and it continues on. I love it. It's actually I Kissed a Boy Coming to Hulu is your latest American conquest, but you were actually an early pioneer. You had I Begin to Wonder, Don't Want to Lose This Feeling. They were charting here and Put the Needle was being played at the clubs. And you performed on Last Call with Carson Daly. And this was before streaming. This was before, crossovers were necessarily so common. What was the experience like promoting in America at that time? It's very different, I would imagine.
it was wildly different from anything that I'd done. So coming from Australia, there's a couple of radio stations, a couple of TV shows that can go on and perform. Once you've done those, you're done. You've covered the country. Then I go to the UK, and it's like at that point, 91, there were so many TV shows, so many radio shows, but no podcast, no social media, but a lot of magazines, like music magazines were huge. So you were always doing a photo shoot, then TV show, then into radio. It was nonstop, like a hamster in a wheel. But everything's pretty close together in the UK. Then when I went to America for the first time, it was like it's club music. Really to get the radio stations firing. We're going to get some club shows going. So I sort of went from end to end of America, and I did the whole club tour. The dirty late night, every club. It was the Lady Gaga bus club tour, right. And it was wild. I was young. A lot was, happening around me that I wasn't like aware of, and then later on I was. I mean, it was crazy, but it definitely, to get into the music industry in America, you got to pay your dues. You've got to go across America, whether, like I remember back in the day hearing how INXS broke, and they did all the universities, and they really got out there and did the shows. So it was like, okay, I'm up for this. Doing a club show is nothing unusual for me, but it was just, yeah, night after night and going into every radio station across the country. It was like, this is wild. There's so many people to talk to, and you got to break it station by station to get a buzz and to get something happening. These days, wildly different. Social media or a big TV show and a music festival or a support act, and you can be flying a lot faster.
I mean, speaking of, Sophie Ellis-Bextor's Murder on the Dance Floor having a huge moment even here, 20 years later, you couldn't predict it, but just one movie sync is what did it now. And
yeah,
I'm wondering, do you think there's any song or album from the back catalog that you think deserves a renaissance, like a Murder on the Dance Floor moment?
I think Put the Needle on It is really fun. It kind of is in the club. And I was thinking about it the other day, how doing the mashup with Into the Groove, and then how we did the video for Put the Needle on It, which is really actually in the groove of the record. It's kind of for me like, okay, this is just, it's coming back to me. So maybe something like that would be fun.
I would absolutely love to. I will obviously campaign and pioneer to make that happen. We'll get that on a movie soundtrack immediately. And of course, in the years since, you had a long string of consecutive hits. And do you remember when you were first being dubbed Queen of Clubs? Because I saw that moniker attached. I saw Queen of Clubs in press clippings and stuff when I was first becoming a fan. Do you remember when that was starting to be associated with your name?
Yeah, it was definitely after Neon Nights, we were just having number one after number one after number one. They were all consecutive. So before I started Neon Nights, I was the pop girl. And in the UK, dance music was a very different genre, and they did not mix. That was like rock and pop. No, 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 no. There's no collaborations. There's no mixing there. It's a different scene. And dance music is cool. It's got all the DJs. Pop music is all your bubbly TV shows and bubbly radio. And then it was when I got asked to do Who Do You Love Now by Pete Tong, his label. He's the godfather of DJs, and he was like the huge jock on Radio 1. He was always like, they were making a live show from Ibiza, and he asked me to do the song, and I was like, I just thought, does he know who he's asked? Like, is this for real? Is this a prank? What is this? Because to get his stamp of approval, it changed the direction of everything. It changed my life. So then going into that album, it was clubs with this stamp of approval, with now a connection to DJs and a scene that was not on my radar. And then we just kept having these #1 club records. And it's like, this is crazy. It's like all the DJs are playing it every time and we're delivering. And then when we like looked at the figures, it was like no other female artist has ever done that. So it was kind of like going from just, okay, I'm a big part of my promo and my work is in clubs. And so we're actually seeing it in those figures there and something to be proud of. The friends that I worked with on that club promo in the UK back in the day, I still work with now. So it's like it's family and it's something that we collectively proud of.
I love that. But I mean, your relationship with dance goes even further back. You know, you All I Want to Do was such a incredible moment as well. And it was a collaboration with Brian Higgins, who would go on to do Cher's Believe and the Xenomania Machine. But before that, there was All I Want to Do. I'm wondering about your experience with Brian and that song, because that's such a another big moment in your career.
Yeah, I think he's very musically talented, very creative. It was his first big cut. And so we were in the studio, and there's always an energy when someone is so hungry to make it. They're like, I've got a known artist trapped in a studio with me. I got to come out with a hit record. That was that hunger that he had. And I heard the song, and because it was written guitar based and everything else I'd been doing was key based, it was like, does this fit right? It felt like putting on like a different costume, like kind of not wanting to step on anything that wasn't feeling authentic to me. And I remember running into another room. I had my friend Terry Ronald there, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if this song is going to work. Do you think I can sing this? Is this okay? And the song exists because my friend Terry said, yes, your voice sounds great on it. Let's record it. If there are things that, if it's the guitar that's putting you off or whatever, production wise can be changed. Let's do this. That was the one moment that changed everything for myself and for Brian, because then that became my biggest chart hit. It was his first cut, and then he was flying after that. And yes, we would not have had Believe had we not had All I Want to Do.
Thank you. That's what I keep saying to everyone. I'm like, no, we got to
Yeah.
know the pop history. It's true. I love it. The butterfly
I
effect.
remember then being in the studio when they recorded Believe and having conversations about that. And I was like, tell me everything, tell me everything. What was it like working with Cher? And it was wild, all the conversations going on about the production of her voice and how that just, wow, that changed pop music.
It completely did. And thanks to you for allowing it to happen first.
My pleasure.
And you mentioned Terry Ronald. You also work with Ian Masterson. I had the pleasure of meeting him at Mighty Hoopla and also thanking him for Neon Nights and his contributions. How did your relationship with them start? Because I mean, they're attached to so many of your projects at this point.
So when I first moved to London, I moved there with one suitcase thinking I was going on a 3-week trip, and ended up living there for 22 years. The first 6 months I was there, I cried my eyes out every single night. I was so homesick. I'm like, what am I doing here? I feel lost. I feel out of place. I really don't know anyone. Like, the people at work are nice, but you work so hard and you go back to a hotel room and you sit there. I lived in a hotel for 2 years because I kept thinking, I'm leaving next week. I'm going back home. You think, do I even bother making a friend? But I knew I needed friendship. And a girl, Penny, at the record company, who's in our friend group, she said, you should meet this artist who's also your label mate. His name's Terry Ronald. We ended up in Spain doing a show together and just chatting. I think we bumped into each other in the lift and we were chatting and worked out our birthdays are on the same day. And it was just the conversation started. And then Terry was my best mate. So he's been there for everything in my world. Ian came into our world at the time of Girl, and we were put in a studio with him. He was fresh out of Belfast. He'd just come to London, had a very, very thick accent at that time, and was wanting to get into pop music. And Terry and I just adored him, took him under our wing, and he just kept coming back to London, ended up living there. And we call ourselves like the Three Musketeers. We're tight and we love working together in different capacities. I know Terry and Ian are writing a musical together, and we Ian and I came back together to record "We Could Be the One" for "I Kissed a Boy," which he had written with in mind for me to sing it, but had to talk me around to do it because I'd said, I'm not doing music anymore. I'm done. I'm good. I'm stepping away. And he was like, no, you are not.
Thank
He's the one
God.
that, oh, he gets very angry at me still to this day. So, yes, that's the only reason I'm back in the studio now is because of that song. And I got back in. I'm like, this is kind of fun. And so, done a little bit of recording since then.
This seems like I feel like I've read interviews where you're going to hang it up for after every album, and you seem to say that you walk away for a little while and then you come back to it.
Well, there was a time after Girl, I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Back then, women weren't making music and albums at the age that I am now. There was no one to look up to. There wasn't a culture of that. So, what am I thinking? You drop from your label. Okay, that's it. I'm done.
Mm.
Particularly, I think it's my mindset of when I got my first record deal in Australia with Mushroom Records and I made the album with Love and Kisses on it. I was 16, I was at school, and I was like, a chance to make an album. I'm never going to get this chance again because nobody's going to want to make an album with me. So I'm going to do this. I had to convince my parents. I'm just going to defer from school for a year because I just want this opportunity to make an album. Then I'll go back to school and then we'll all get back to everything normal and I'll try and find a job, like a normal job, but just let me have this experience. So that mindset, that initial, oh my God, I've got this opportunity, don't let it go, then has followed me. But yeah, after Girl, there was no music industry opportunity for women over 50 making music. And then I went off and had my son, and I really struggled with being a mum and then the feeling of getting back up on stage. They felt like two very different people, and I still struggle with it now. So that was my second moment of, okay, I'm good. I'm stepping away. I, have a son. I love that. I love being a mom and I love it so much. I'm really happy for it to dominate my time. Hence, then conversations with Ian Masterson, like, I'm good, I'm done. And he's like, no, you are not. So there's mentally being a lot going on inside, a lot of anxiety about stuff that people don't see on the outside when it's like, oh, I just popped back up and it's like, oh yeah, did she really, really mean that? I really did at the
Mm.
time for very different reasons.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that you were reinvigorated. It is appreciated. I guess I would love to ask, you said you were still working on things, where things stand right now at the studio and music and new music.
There's another track I recorded in Sydney. We're waiting for some sample clearance. There's another one I'm trying to get hold of, a song that I heard that's written that I love. And then when I saw Ian in London, we got very drunk one night and we started scribbling down lyric ideas, which have now been shredded because the next morning we couldn't even read them. It's like the first line, good, second line, yes, third, and then it melts off the page. So we've been messaging each other a lot since then on a thread that's kind of like some things that jump out to us that could maybe one day end up as a lyric. But yeah, he's pushing for that to happen.
Well, I obviously would love to hear that. I just want to say
How was Mighty Hoopla? How did you enjoy it?
oh my God, I loved it. It was the previous year, so it was Lisa Scott
Uh,
Lee and Khalees and Kelly Rowland. It was wonderful. I loved
oh,
being
you
over
do
there.
it every year.
Yeah, the lineup
Yeah.
is wonderful. Can we possibly expect maybe a one-off or even a tour? Is that something you've even entertained? Obviously, you know.
Definitely not a tour.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, it's just not fitting in with family life and my love of being able to create a show like I Kissed a Boy, and then we've done I Kissed a Girl. It's a long time away from home and it's very, very far away from home. And I get unbelievably homesick. And again, it's all what's going on underneath that nobody else sees. It's big for me. And when I get home, I'm really happy to be home, and going back out on tour, that's just not my thing. Now is just a balance of home and a bit of away.
Mhm. Okay, well maybe a one-off perhaps. Maybe we can negotiate on a one-off, one-time show, one night only.
Well, World Pride was kind of fitting into that bag.
Yes,
Kylie was,
yes.
said, "Do you want to jump up on stage?" And I was like, "Yeah, that would be amazing," because it was a really beautiful moment. Not only to be doing World Pride, not only to do it with her, but I live in Melbourne. We come out of the longest lockdown globally. And so to stand there on a stage with a sea of people in front of you, and it was the first time I'd been in any crowd situation. And I also get anxiety in crowd situations. There's a whole lot going on to get me on that stage. It was wild. It was beautiful.
It was a moment. I mean, obviously it shut down the internet and the gays panic every time there's a sisters Minogue moment. As for the show, I just want to say I was nervous going into it because like being gay, I just didn't even know what it would look like. And because I've seen versions of attempts at gay reality shows that have sometimes been too trashy or too whatever. But once I got through, I was so thoroughly entertained. It's such a good blend of silly, horny, um,
Yeah.
exploration of gay issues. It's a charming watch, I think. How was it pitched to you? Like, what were your initial thoughts about the concept and everything like that?
The first conversation, like to do the first ever gay dating show for the UK, was wild. It's
Yeah,
like, why are we even having this conversation in
right.
2023? Really? That it pisses you off, right? Then it was like, yay, this is great. And then it's the terror of what if this is bad? Because these are my friends, this is my community,
Right.
these are people I love. I do not want to mess this up. I think the combination of the production 2/4 and the BBC, I felt confident that these people were going to steer it in the right direction. And it is wild when you see back the original pitch, the show is exactly what was on paper. And so, what I was nervous about is what do they want it to be? And then once I liked what was on paper, oh my God, but this could change wildly between what I agree to and what gets made. So, it's about who you work with and what their intentions are. So I grilled all of them about what are the intentions of what the show is going to be. Then there was another layer of how is everyone going to be looked after? Because for me, that's a lot of pressure on your shoulders to be those first guys in the first ever gay dating show. People in the community are going to be watching it like, am I
Hmm.
going to like this? Am I going to see myself? Straight people will go, this is on our TV. Why should this be here? I was going to cop it from every angle, but these boys who'd never been a part of the entertainment industry, who are not versed, not thick skinned in all of that, there's a lot on their shoulders. So I'm like, okay, how are we choosing them? Because they've got to be ready for this. How are we looking after them? So for me, it was wild for me to actually sign the line. It wasn't just like, yeah, I'll show up in a frock and I'll do it. And I'm really happy that, from my actual friends, it felt like a really good representation of different gay people, so that if you don't know that world, you don't have one stereotype idea. And there's only so much we can do when there's 10 guys into the masseria, some leave, some more come. Okay, we try to not only represent everyone, but we are grilling them on who they are, who they're looking for. So try and have a match in there for them, because that's the idea. We want some success. So I thought the production company did an incredible job, and they did it again with second series with the girls. You have to watch that.
I'm about to.
It
Yes.
is a different world. They are wildly different. And yeah, I had to walk away from something that I was so proud of and feel that it was done right, because I knew that everybody, when you're the first, and we're standing there in 2023 going, why hasn't anyone made this before? You know why? Because all eyes are going to be on you and everyone's going to be like this. Okay, is it really going to be that good? What's it going to be like? Is it going to, do I see me? Is this, is it too camp or not camp enough or whatever? But we thought, if the integrity of why everyone wants to make it is good, the boys are try and find people that are really looking for love and really let things just evolve. Don't poke them in there. Let them just be together and see what comes out. And we did that with the girls as well. And the conversations are wild. You get something,
Yeah.
it is unscripted, it's real, it's natural. It just happens. So every day I would run into set, I'm like, oh, what's happened? They're like, oh, you can't believe it. This conversation took place. So it wasn't just about there was this snogging or that. And I definitely got questioned by a lot of people, like how much physical action was happening there, because there was this idea that, oh, well, if you just put a whole bunch of gay guys in a Mazzarella, it's going to turn wild.
I was wondering.
But actually, there was some guys suffer from anxiety. Some guys are wild and loud, and they're so different, and they're from different parts of the UK, even though it's a tiny, tiny place compared to America. If you come from Belfast or you come from London, there is a big difference in that community that you grew up in.
Yeah.
And what was said to you, what you heard, how you were treated, that then kind of informs how you're moving forward in the world. And they all learn from each other, and I feel like the audience learns a lot. So it's yeah, you can tell I'm very passionate about it.
I mean, I learned a lot. I learned a lot of lingo. He's a bit of me. I
Yeah.
didn't know that's someone who's your type. I thought they were saying he's a better me, and I was like, don't be so hard on yourself. That's
Yeah. I don't know how much was subtitled, but
Oh, it
I
was,
was,
but I was just like a bit of
yeah.
me. I've never, but apparently that's a Love Island thing and on here, so I'm learning lingo. One of the quick things is during the reunion, I think I was a little shocked about some of the results. Definitely after.
Don't give anything away.
I won't give anything away, but I'm wondering what you think for season two, which is now casting, right?
Yes.
If there's something that might be different about how they handle going out into the world after, because it felt like maybe that was quite the challenge for some of them, or maybe, is there something about season two that might address the results of some of the finale, or what they can consider?
I think what's going to happen is going to happen,
Mm,
but as long as we look after them, and that's what I was saying before, like we really had to be careful that we were choosing the right guys and that they were ready for everything. Are you ready for love? Are you ready for TV? Are you ready to sit down and watch this with your friends and family? Are you ready for social media to explode about what you just said?
yeah.
Um, and when you're the first, there's no guidebook for that. They just knew they had a team of welfare around them, production. They would DM me. Like it was, we're all part of this incredible moment that happened. And we will always all be part of that first TV show. So they'll be recognized forever. People will come up to them and say stuff. But I think we're casting now, and anybody who's followed the show and followed social media knows that they've had a wild time since the show went out, and they're invited to every event and pride and party and this and that, and they've definitely kept some friendships within the group. So they always have somebody that have been through that experience as well, which is really important. But the boys broke off into smaller groups, whereas what we've seen with the girls is that they all still talk. It's just very different how it's all worked out. And we cast it the same in the fact that they're all spread out. They're all from different ends of the country for the girls and the guys. But it was just a thing with the guys. They're kind of like, okay, we have a little friendship group now, and we have a friendship group. And we just check in on them, make sure they do still have that support there.
I just want to say thank you so much again for doing this. Obviously, it means a tremendous amount to me. And any opportunity I have to spread the gospel about you, I take, and love you so much. And we'll talk, we'll meet in person. We'll have to have a more proper conversation at some point, but
absolutely. I feel like we've got to meet face to face, and whether it's at Mighty Hoopla or if it's in America or whatever, we will meet up somewhere. But thanks for spreading the word about this show. You can tell how much my heart is in it, and just want people to be able to see it. And who knows, one day, hopefully they will make an American version of this.
I mean, hey, and this is what happens. These shows hit streamers and then they just explode in popularity. I was genuinely so excited when I saw it was coming to Hulu, because it's like you don't know what will pop off once it hits streaming. It's crazy. These shows get new life. And so I'm very excited for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope to see you soon.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for chatting with me, Dani.
Okay, see ya.
And that was my interview with Dani Minogue, who is truly perfection. It was everything I wanted, and yet I still need another piece of time to pick her brain about so many things. Too much. I'm so under pressure, but I hope you loved it. And of course, love and kisses to Dani. I know the show will only continue to be a success. If this was your first time listening and you began to wonder, hello, my name is Brad Stern. You can find me at Muumuse, MUUMUSE, on all socials. We will be back next week with a regular episode alongside my co-host T. Kyle, breaking down all the pop culture events of the week. And for our Patreon supporters, there is an exclusive bonus episode this week where T. Kyle listens to his second Girls Aloud album ever for the first time, right in time for my trip to London to see them. If you enjoyed this, make sure to give us a follow at legendsonly_pod on all socials. Rate and review us wherever you're listening to the podcast. And until next week, we will see you soon.